Imagine being an artist in your prime. Your canvases sell for thousands, if not millions. People go through your trash in hopes of finding bits of your work, and you do this to your art. These are Francis Bacon artworks, or perhaps they aren't artworks. They were discarded as artworks by the artist who made them. However, whether this is an artwork or not is not the topic of this video. I want to look at Bacon's destroyed paintings and what they can tell us about the artist, his struggle, and his process. This video was brought to you by the generous support of my patrons on Patreon. If you also want to become a patron, it helps out tremendously, and anybody who gives $1 or more are thanked in the credits at the end of each video. Thank you. Exhibited twice in 1946, Study for Man with Microphones would never be shown again. It would undergo a transformation in 1962 as it was shown as Gorilla with Microphones. The subject had changed slightly, and again, the painting would disappear for another 3 decades. After his death in 1992, 100 destroyed canvases were found in his now abandoned studio, one of which was Gorilla with Microphones. This final transformation from Gorilla with Microphones to a destroyed painting is the kind of transformation Bacon would fatally afflict on many of his artworks. I slashed them all into tiny bits with a Stanley knife. He insisted on this because, in the past, people had stolen discarded bits from the dustbin outside. The smaller canvases, postage stamps as he called them, he destroyed himself. This is a quote from John Edwards, Francis Bacon's only heir, talking about destroying 20 large canvases, many of which looked finished. So he didn't only destroy small paintings or paintings he didn't feel like finishing, he destroyed paintings he wasn't proud of, maybe perhaps embarrassed of. Some friends of his said that of the paintings he'd have them destroy, some were beautiful, some were worthy of his name and talent. Francis Bacon would admit this himself. I think I tend to destroy the better paintings, or those that have been better to a certain extent. I try to take them further, and they lose all their qualities, and they lose everything. I think I would say that I tend to destroy all the better paintings. I rarely do this, but let's deconstruct this quote taken from an interview with David Sylvester. Aside from the fact that he repeats that he destroys the better paintings, though the second time he says all of them, the middle sentence is what, to me, is intriguing. I try to take them further, and they lose all their qualities, and they lose everything. Bacon isn't talking about slashing, shredding, or burning his works. He's talking about overworking them. And I think this reveals a lot about Bacon's very well-known exceptionally high expectations for himself and his art. He wanted to be a great artist, this has been said before, and any trace of him not living up to that standard was to be erased and destroyed. See, to him, an overworked painting, a painting he falsely thought he'd be good enough to take further, was destroyed. A work of art was destroyed not when the knife hit the canvas, but when the expectations of the artist weren't met. Now, the reasons why he was so violent in his final destruction of his paintings was partly because people would scavenge in his trash to find bits of Bacon art which were quite valuable. Art historian Martin Harrison would say that every destroyed painting was like throwing away £1 million. So he'd destroy them to make sure they weren't salvageable. Francis Bacon's art was undeniably violent. I made a video 3 years ago on his Screaming Popes, where pain and suffering are inevitable components of the paintings. In that video, which I don't recommend because I can't stand my narration, I state that this suffering is conveyed not only through the depiction of a screaming pope, but through the very way this pope is depicted. The brushstrokes themselves in a Bacon painting become violent. A 2017 documentary on Francis Bacon is available on YouTube, and it's titled A Brush with Violence. And this violence isn't only in the subject of these paintings, the brushstrokes, or in the artist's life, but also in the artist's passion, his intensity in his very artistic process. This violence, ardent and impulsive, can lead to some great displays of suffering, an experience all of us can connect to, but it can also lead to its own destruction. These destroyed paintings are fascinating not only for their historical importance and not only for their rarity, knowing that most of them have fully been destroyed, but mostly because it exhibits two important aspects of Francis Bacon's art. First, the passion that one must have for their art to destroy it. It's quite paradoxical, but for an artist to destroy their artwork, they need to care for it. They need to have a deep relation to it. Had Bacon not cared, not have been passionate about his art, he could have gotten rid of it by selling it or giving it away to a friend, but he didn't. He destroyed it. He cared enough about it to not let it see the light of day. Second, the insecurity of the artist. Bacon wasn't the first nor the last artist to feel insecure about his art. He aspired to be a great artist. He was a great artist, and he didn't want a mediocre painting to embarrass him, to rob him from his pride, his success, his status as an artist. And it also wouldn't be the first time nor the last time that insecurity turned to violence. Very often, especially in men, insecurity leads to violence. We've seen it often on an individual and on a social level. Insecurity can lead to self-destructing emotional outbursts. I'll let you figure out on your own how insecurity in men can be self-destructive socially and individually. However, if you want, we can talk about it in the stream following this video. To go back to what was once Gorilla with microphones, I feel like Bacon, though he didn't have any intentions for it, created a new artwork. The many transformations this painting had, from an empty canvas to Study for Man with microphones, to Gorilla with microphones, to discarded painting, doesn't mark the birth and death of an artwork. I think the discarded painting in itself is an artwork, perhaps one without an artist, as it wasn't made with an intention or an artistic process. However, us as viewers can conceptualize it and recontextualize it. Instead of seeing a discarded painting, we can see a work of art solidly established in Bacon's history as an artist. It's not a stretch, I believe, to see it as just another step of violence in Bacon's creations, just another expression of pain. An expression of pain so pure that the artist himself didn't even conceive of it as art. Thank you so much for watching. Come hang out in the live stream after this video. Thank you for subscribing and liking this video. And as always, I'd like to thank Roman Brandel, Mike Wex, and every other patron for supporting the channel. If you also want to support the channel, check out patreon.com/thecanvas. Thank you.